Living out of a suitcase, photojournalist Nick Danziger is in London for only 24 hours. He lives in Monaco, but his long-term project about the UN Millennium Development Goals has brought him to the British capital. It's work that's especially close to his heart, since he's revisited the people he photographed over and over again.
I didn't believe that snapshot in 2005 would give us the answer. So I did go back. I went back in 2010, 5 years later. And indeed, at that point, I thought I'll need to revisit them once more when the MDGs come to a conclusion, to see how their lives have been affected by these grand kind of policies that were instituted at the United Nations.
Danziger meets with his agent, Neil. Both hope that the project will result in a book. One of the countries Danziger has visited most often is Niger. There in 2005, he met Abbas, who had been working in a gold mine since the age of 12. 13 hours a day, 365 days a year, without any security precautions. 10 years later, Abbas still has to descend into the 23-meter deep pits. He never had the chance to go to school or learn to read and write. In Honduras, Danziger got to know Franklin. When the two first met, Franklin was 7 years old and on top of his class, and he dreamed of working in a bank. But his family had no money for the school bus, so he had to drop out.
And 5 years later, I find Franklin, and he dropped out of school, ended up joining a gang. Franklin today is living under the cloud of a death threat because the gang know that he knows a lot about the workings of the gang, and they've threatened to kill him. He was a sweet kid. You can see the pictures.
But some of his stories are positive. For example, Jiva from India. He's a transsexual. In 2005, he was shunned by society and forced to prostitute himself. But Indian law has changed in the meantime, and transsexuals have been acknowledged as a third gender.
Jiva has actually now got a self-help group, drop-in center going. So for someone who is living really on the margins of society, who actually didn't exist, Jiva didn't have papers, now is not only exists in terms of having a national identity card, but is now helping his community. It's a fantastically positive story.
Following people's destinies over the course of years takes an emotional toll. Danziger says that his family is a huge source of support, but he still feels the misery in the lives of his subjects.
Why does a child born in one part of the world grow up constantly in pain from hunger, where a girl grows up, will be forced into a marriage as a girl, as a 13-year-old, and then will become pregnant? Her body isn't made as a young teenager to give birth, and I see those girls dying. It's wrong.
Danziger says that most of the UN Millennium Development Goals set in 2000 have not been attained. The UN refuses to exhibit his photos. There are too many negative images.
He didn't want to see them now, no. Okay. I could have brought that into the United Nations. They could have seen the reality for themselves. But according to them, we understand the harsh realities. Well, I really don't believe that's the case. I don't believe they've been down a 20-meter mine shaft to see what Abbas and thousands, not of young men, but children go through on a daily basis, risking their lives to put bread, meager food on the table in the evening for their families.
The UN's Millennium Development Project expires this year. But who knows? Maybe Nick Danziger will continue visiting his subjects every 5 years.